So it seems like there is this huge something or other happening around the video game industry. There's massive consolidation. There are massive layoffs, massive retirements and or slash firings. We don't know. And all of it seems to be driven by the idea that things cost so much money that they have to do something or everything's going to collapse. Well, I feel like everything is pointing to that. And if you lived through the crash in the 80s, the reason for it was that there were a lot of really bad video games being made, pushed out to consumers, and there was no care in the creativity aspect of things. It was just put it out there. We can make tons of money. We don't care about what's happening with the industry or how we're damaging it, and everything fell apart. Well, I feel like there are parallels to what's happening now and what happened then. There are some really great studios still doing some really great things. Think about Remedy recently. They go from strength to strength. So they figured out a way to stay true to what they do, to manage their costs versus their revenue slash profit. I hate talking about this stuff because it means absolutely nothing to me when it comes to video games. And I feel like, why do people care about this stuff so much? But you guys seem to love these videos. You really don't like videos about video games. You like these videos about what may happen, doom and gloom. And I'm not blind to what's happening. I think about it a little bit. But when I feel that I have something interesting, that's when I'll make a video about it. So I felt like this parallel between really shitty video games being pushed out to people and everything collapsing because of the idea behind we don't care about what we're doing. All we care about is making money. You look at what's happening now, and the idea behind trying to change consumers' mindset when it comes to what is quality. Quality isn't something that is subjective. There has to be an objective standard when it comes to quality. You can't just say, well, I like it, so therefore it's okay. I'll give you an example. I love the Crackdown series, Crackdown 1, and even Crackdown 2, which a lot of people didn't like after the first one. I love those games. I like the gameplay loop of collecting, the sort of pseudo platforming gameplay that it gives me. So Crackdown 3 was something I was very interested in. I didn't care about cloud computing. I knew that that was probably just fluff. I just wanted to play Crackdown 3. I like Crackdown 3. I played Crackdown 3 for a lot of hours. Absolutely loved it. But I'm not so brain dead as to think that because I love the game, it's AAA quality, or it's okay, or it's better than it is because of, and this is what I want to go back to when it comes to, not caring about what you're putting out versus what you're asking consumers to give you in the way of money. Crackdown 3 isn't better because it's in GamePass or because it's in a service. And a lot of companies, Microsoft leading the way, but I feel like Sony's looking at what's happening and thinking, we want some money too. I think that a lot of people are changing the idea or pretending that quality is subjective, and it isn't. And games aren't magically better because they're in subscription services. And what's happening is the same companies that didn't care about the games they were putting out on the Atari and leading to the crash, in other words, like E.T., stuff like that coming out, asking consumers to spend $50, $60, $70 or even more back in the day, leading to a crash, that same sentiment is being sort of delivered to people through subscription services. Now, I'm not saying every game in a subscription service is bad or that games created under the umbrella of a subscription service are always going to be bad, but my experience so far has been just looking at people reacting to this stuff, that if it's in a subscription service, it's magically 5 to 10 points better, or the idea of, say, a AAA game like, say, Spider-Man 2, the quality of that game is somehow the same for, say, Starfield because it's in Game Pass. Take a look at Redfall. There are still people defending Redfall and saying it's a good game for Game Pass. The developer of Redfall themselves recently said this. Now pay attention to this because this is insane to me. They said that consumers 10 years from now subscribing to Game Pass are going to see Redfall, and they want to continue to work on the game to make it better for those potential subscribers 10 years from now when they find Redfall. This is the sentiment that I feel is leading to a lot of this this degradation. If the consumers who exist now, if they're not your concern, if the game coming out and being delivered to them isn't a concern right at launch, then to say 10 years from now, for consumers who may subscribe to Game Pass, that is why we're working hard to make sure that this game is good. They said Game Pass lives forever, so that's why it's okay that their game releases in a really poor state, because consumers later on down the line are going to find a game that they enjoy. Now, that sentiment to me speaks to the idea that no one really cares. Even consumers. You've got people who swear by Game Pass or PlayStation Plus even. People aren't even buying new great games like Alan Wake 2 because it's not in a subscription service. And that sends a signal to everyone that something has to happen, because if costs are going up, if the idea of making something great is going up cost-wise, and consumers aren't even responding to that great stuff unless it's put in a subscription service, which means that that budget for that game has to be lower because you're not getting that initial burst of sales, then something has to give. And I feel like we're headed for that tipping point where everything's going to be gobbled up, and then the new AAA, the new idea of what AAA is starting to take hold. Now, I know what a AAA game is, and I hope that you do, and I don't think Crackdown 3 is an example of AAA. I don't think Redfall is an example of AAA. I don't even think Starfield is an example of AAA, based on some of the things that were allowed to occur or allowed to stay in the game upon release. But here's the kicker. I don't think anybody cares. I really don't. I think most consumers, even people who are just buying a console for the first time, they don't care. They don't know the history of the industry or what a AAA game is. Kids buying their first console, let's say they buy an Xbox. This is their first video game console. They don't care about anything that I've said. They don't care about anything that you think. All they know is Game Pass, Xbox, there's a bunch of games here. They just don't care. And everybody's starting to figure out, and by everybody, I mean Xbox, Microsoft, PlayStation, Sony. Nintendo is an outlier, which is why I love them. But everybody's starting to figure out that just good enough is the new AAA. And I don't know how I feel about that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching the video. Think about liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.